Last season, it was a championship battle for the ages. Three drivers dominated much of the summer: Matthew Thunhorst, Justin Morton, and J.R. Shepherd. In the end, it was Shepherd who added to his illustrious BRL career by winning another Grand National Series title. Now, with a new campaign all set to go, the question on everyone's mind is simple: who can win it this time? We're about to find out who can set the tone early, live on the Virtual Grip Network. Hello everyone, my name is Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Devin Henry. Behind the scenes is our producer, Daniel Handover, for this evening's action, as we begin Season 8 of the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series campaign. Devin, a new season is all set to get underway. This season could be one of the most intriguing yet, however, in the history of this entire series.
Yeah, Justin, when you look back at what this league did last year, the closest points battle in this Premier Series of all time for the Grand National Series between J.R. Shepherd, Matthew Thunhorst, Justin Morton, and Austin Belkey ran the season of his career. But with that said, not all the typical championship competitors were a part of that summer season. Now we come into season number 8 of the Bootleg Racing League Grand National Series, and it has all of the players showing up tonight. J.R. Shepherd and Matthew Thunhorst are back. Former champion James Lowe in the house tonight. Another former champion in Kenny Kibbe has finally made his return. Justin Morton back looking to win races. How about Tim Chinoski? The Chinoskis are joining us again. A great time to have all these drivers back out here, and if everyone goes full time, I think it's fair to say that we have 5 different drivers with a definite chance at fighting for a championship here in season number 8.
And in turn, if indeed all of the drivers end up going full-time, we may see an even more intense battle than last season, to say the very least. Keep in mind, to start off this season, we visit Stafford Speedway, or East Stafford Speedway, as it was called when it hosted pro invitational events for some of its real-world drivers. And this track can be fairly entertaining on the iRacing service and provide a lot of bumping and baiting action. It's going to be difficult, however. Several drivers have been making collisions in practice while trying to get used to this racetrack for tonight.
Absolutely. Throttle control is so essential when you come to the Stafford Speedway track. And when you look at the current weather, 80 degrees Fahrenheit outside, not terrible, until you come to realize that it is also 83-degree track temperature as the sun goes down here in Stafford. So you already have to battle everyone else, find your throttle points, maximize the braking zones, but on top of that, you're going to fight a track that's still fairly warm, and you have to find some sort of bearing and grip on top of what you already have to feast against. So you already have the bumping and the banging, as you alluded to, Justin, but now you have to also battle the racetrack, more than just in terms of how difficult Stafford is, but also in terms of the sun and the heat. And it's really not going to get much better as this night wears on. It's going to get tougher. It might even get warmer. And of course, no tire changes in the Bootleg Racing League, so you have to go all 100 laps on this one set of rubber and find a way to make speed at the end of this race as well.
That's where it's about to turn towards next, especially for those watching for the first time with this series. You mentioned the no tire changes. That has been a staple to BRL competition for many seasons. But also keep in mind, this is also the type of series where if you're a returning driver, there's a benefit. Because if you, say, finished inside the top 8 to close out last season, Devin, you get to start at the front today. If you are a new driver, you're basically at the tail.
Exactly. When you look at what this race is right now, we have 19 cars currently in practice, but there will not be a qualifying session in the next 90 seconds before we go to grid. The starting grid is set by last week's finishing order, and the top 8 from last week get inverted. That means that last week's winner will start provisionally in the 8th position, but we have 19 cars on track tonight. A lot of these guys did not race in that season finale a couple of weeks ago now. Therefore, they have to tag the back of the field. I don't care how fast you are coming into this race. It just doesn't matter. You have to start from the back because you did not attend the previous race, and that is what we do the entire length of the season. So not only is that first spot so valuable because, hey, you want to go out and win races, but if that's just not your day. You're riding around 10th. That 8th position becomes so valuable because if you finish in 8th, that becomes the provisional pole for the following week. So it's not just battling for the win. It's not just battling for points, but you are also fighting for your starting position next week. Every spot matters.
As these drivers begin to wrap up their practice session, under 20 seconds are on that respective clock. I'd like to take the time to remind you of the title sponsor for this season of the BRL's Grand National Series, Gargamel's Kitchen. Gargamel's Kitchen is a food-grade nitrous oxide provider located in Denver, Colorado, and a proud sponsor of the Bootleg Racing League. Visit their office at 2045 South Valentia Street or give them a call at 720-707-6178. Barney the Flagman waves his checkered flag for our practice session, which means these drivers are just about set to go racing from Stafford Speedway to begin this season of BRL Grand National Series competition. It's time to find out how the drivers will line up to begin this year's campaign. Let's look at your starting grid here on the Virtual Grip Network. Kurt Smith was able to get 8th position in the season finale for season number 7. That sets him up for the pole tonight, with Ryan Seneca and Austin Belkey inside the top 3. Keep an eye on Belkey from inside row 2. Rowan Alty starts in 4th, while Kenny Kibbe will start in 5th position today. Justin Morton and J.R. Shepard round out the inversion spots based on attendance. Joe Segales, Todd Liston, and Adam Shane round out your top 10 tonight, Devin.
Bruce Pearson starts in P11. Mike Holloway to the outside of him. Row 7 made up by the boss man, Lowell Jewell, and also the leader in wins last season, Matthew Thunhorst in P14. Former champion James Lowe in the 15th position with Mark Herzog to the outside of him. Tim Shanoski, Steven Speeds, and Chris Wilson round out our 19-car field at Stafford Motor Speedway.
With that, these drivers will now get the chance to roll their cars to your starting grid for tonight's action. Again, this is BRL Grand National Series competition to start off Season 8 for the first round at Stafford Speedway. Once again, the track conditions, 83 degrees Fahrenheit is the track temp, 80 degrees air temp for tonight. Partly cloudy skies. In sim time is just itself approaching 7 p.m. These drivers get ready to go. It's worth noting Kurt Smith elected to start from the pit lane, surprisingly, Devin, to begin this season, giving Belkey control of the field for the first time in a while.
I'm not sure what the selection was there. I don't know, maybe he might have some sort of issue or something, but Austin Belkey and his always Jeff Gordon throwback will lead the field to green. But Justin, everyone needs to keep an eye in their rear view mirror with Matthew Thunhorst and James Lowe starting 14th and 15th, Herzog in P16, Shanoski in 17th. We're going to see a few drivers come from the tail tonight, potentially get their way to the front.
This could be a wild one tonight from Stafford Speedway. The iRacing pace car is off. A brand new season of BRL Grand National Series action is ready to go. Green flag is out. We're underway from Stafford. Clean first 2 corners to begin this race. Belkey able to get on clear. Kenny Kibbe, though, already wants second. J.R. Shepard trying to dive underneath for 3rd position as well. First lap led by Austin Belkey as several drivers, including Lowell Jewell, try and fight side by side.
And numerous drivers using that apron. Now, this is going to help you turn the car once you get those left sides onto the apron, and that difference in banking as well. But eventually, these cars are not going to like that extra little bit of turning help. It really gets the car loose. So I'm honestly surprised that so many cars are on the apron so early on in this race. But we'll see how people continue to utilize that as the top, not necessarily a black hole, but everyone's still trying to migrate to the bottom as fast as possible.
Now, you may notice a bit of a shuffle in the scoring. Steven Spees had also started towards the back in this field. He ended up having a slide just a moment ago of turn 2 on lap 2 that sent him right back to where Kurt Smith is on track. Those cars are undamaged, however. Here's the slide. Spees doing a good job to avoid damage, but a little scare after for Kurt Smith. They're now 9 seconds back.
And Spees himself, a great dirt racer, though. You don't like to go into the dirt here at Stafford Speedway. Luckily able to contain himself and not have any damage. But yeah, Spees and Smith They just have to wait now for a caution, and that will get them back to this field. But for now, Mike Holloway now making himself a move. This is for the 15th position in the number 2 machine. A lot of adversity and a lot of drivers to overcome. Not always we have 19 drivers here in BRL, so it's quite the trek from the rear of the field to get yourself up to even the provisional pole for next week.
Yeah, right now several drivers are in the midst of losing 2 or 3 spots or gaining 1 or 2. Only one driver has gained more than 3 or 4, and that has been Tim Janowski, who is up to the 10th position. Just up the road, just behind him is the second biggest mover, plus 4. Higher up on track, should say, J.R. Shepherd. He is continuing to hound Kenny Kibbe for 2nd position. Separation between the top 3, just half a second.
And these have become 3 of the premier drivers in the league. Former champion Kenny Kibbe, wins leader J.R. Shepherd, and Austin Belkey. I mean, me and you talked about all the time last season, Justin, how Austin Belkey has really not just matured, but also has just gotten more consistent. Back up maybe 2-3 seasons ago, when Austin Belkey would have this opportunity, he would blow by the pack, he'd fly in front of everyone, and completely slaughter that right front tire. He's gotten better at conservation and maintaining speed, and we saw him last year have multiple podium finishes, constantly inside the top 5, and even be mathematically in the points championship coming into the last race. So this 24 car leading the way, don't be surprised if he's battling for those top 5s and spending time out front this season.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially since back in 2021 Season 2, that was in the springtime for 2021 competition, he was able to win multiple BRL championships. First to do so since J.R. Shepherd, joining an illustrious group that includes drivers such as Bobby Rafferty as well. Mark Herzog now looking on board with him. He's still in the midst of the heart of the pack, and that In-N-Out Burger machine always an eye-catching paint scheme that's riding in 14, trying to follow on behind a former champion, James Lowe.
Yeah, love the West Coast touch on this primarily virtually East Coast series, if you will. But, you know, we really have seen in the past Mark Herzog have himself some fantastic runs, but for now, he has a lot of drivers to get around, still stuck outside the top 10. It's now Matthew Thunhorst makes the move for the 10th position. He now has to set his sights on Bruce Pearson directly in front of him. And for these guys who start in the back because they did not make the race 2 weeks ago, the season finale, you really have to conserve your tires here. As you dive down into the corner to get to the inside of Bruce Pearson, you have to consider how much am I using the right front tire to slow the car down. If Matthew Thunhorst passes 20 cars tonight, that's great. But is it going to be a car to pass for the lead? Because if you don't have any more right front tire, it's not going to turn anymore. So you really have to be considerate of what you do when you're going through traffic to make sure that, hey, 60, 70 laps down the road from now, you still have a competitive car.
Keep in mind, Matthew Thunhorst missed the final 2 rounds of the season, Devin, to which took him out of, in essence, the championship fight because of that, and in turn, output Shepherd leading to the championship and tied that win mark. You've mentioned both Shepherd and Thunhorst, 5 wins apiece amongst that campaign in turn, so that's something that has to be noted when we talk about that championship fight as we look at Adam Shane Company and several more fight.
And like I said, it's cool to have Tim Janowski back in the house, the 2017 Season 4 Street Stock champion, back racing with us. Of course, also Matt Janowski has him a couple of BRL championships and other series, but not often I've seen that 07 car out here in the Grand National Series at all, and I think maybe did some dirt. I don't know. I get my Janowskis messed up every now and again, but cool to have Tim out here and currently riding behind Matthew Thunhorst as he makes the move for the 8th position around Joe Segales now. So Janowski has just been following along behind Matthew Thunhorst, and if I had to pick someone to follow at this track, Matthew Thunhorst might be one of the best guys, so he's in a good position right now doing so.
See that battle just up the road from Bruce Pearson, the Spirit of Daytona Racing driver, who currently rides in 14th position. And you see that big differential, at least a quarter of a racetrack between them, where Thunhorst and Janowski are currently riding on the racetrack. Already approaching lap 20, starting this time by. The top 3, keep in mind, have broken away from Justin Morden. Justin Morden running nearly, in fact, more than 2 seconds back, Devin, already at the start of this race.
Yeah, the St. Louis, Missouri driver's made himself a little bit of headway, got around Ryan Seneker, but still faces about a 2-second hole to catch up to J.R. Shepherd. So the Total Downforce Racing driver kind of in no man's land right now. No one behind him, no one in front of him. And it all depends on the driver what happens next and the mentality, because some drivers just get a little bit complacent, maybe lackadaisical when you kind of have guys out in front of you, but they're not close enough to chase down. There's no one pushing you behind you, right? So, you know, maybe he's tire conservation mean, or maybe he does have that extra little light bulb in him to go, all right, I'm going to try to hunt these guys down. But every now and again, it's difficult mentally to figure out what to do when you're no man's land. We'll take a look back here. Matthew Dunhorst making the move for the 7th position now. So he is inside that top 8 invert, but most importantly, how about the room that Dunhorst has made up to begin this race? Started around that 15th position and now has himself in P7. If a caution were to come out soon, he'd have himself in a great position as now he gets around Dunhorst.
Caution.
Dunhorst around list in P6. Great spot to be in here for Matthew Dunhorst through the first 22 laps of this race.
First caution is out. James Lowe, Mark Herzog, and a few others involved for our first caution flag of the race, coming towards the beginning of lap 23 today. So unfortunate for a few drivers. James Lowe lost a cess in the past, was involved in the incident, switching over in the Balsalt racing machine to a blue paint scheme. And unfortunately, his car said hello to the In-N-Out Burger machine as they spun around to the top of the racetrack.
Yeah, well, taking a look at what happened there, obviously the 57 taps the rear bumper of the 99, and these Arca Menard Series Chevy Impalas despise any form of contact. On board here with Herzog, let's listen in. Man, I wouldn't even think that would have made contact there. Honestly, the 57 using that outside lane might have been trying to gain a little bit of momentum even to make maybe a pass on that next corner and set it up, but very, I don't know, microscopic contact there. Gets the spin around. These cars just hate contact. They like the social distancing. Really unfortunate for those two drivers. Now back into the 18th and 19th position, almost 25 laps down through this race. So Herzog and Lowe are going to have themselves quite the trek to get back into the top 10 at any point of this race.
They lose decent amounts of track position. -2 for Herzog now, -4 or so for Lowe. Kurt Smith, the only driver of this caution flag, electing to come down to the pit lane after he started from said lane. After being the initial pole sitter, he is now elected to drop to the very back of the field once more. Now let's take the time to talk about some of the BRL series that took place earlier on tonight, because in BRL's competitions, they have a slate of 3 series per night, with this being the invitational of series sorts, to try and battle yourself to. Earlier tonight, it was Kenny Kibbe who started the late model and truck campaigns, Devin, with victories to start off that season. J.R. Shepherd in both of those was close. James Lowe and Matthew Dunhorst also were contenders along with Austin Belkey in those respective races.
Yeah, great way to start off the weekend and a few chances to look at this racetrack before you take the green here in the Premier Series.
All these drivers race against one another a lot, to say the very least, in BRL competition. It's Austin Belkey with an earlier launch than the initial start, but some tire spin for Ryan Seneker. 5th on back, got checked up. Matthew Dunhorst dives underneath Justin Morton to take advantage, all while Austin Belkey gets clear while J.R. Shepherd defends hard to the inside of Kenny Kibbe.
And just like that, Matthew Dunhorst, who restarted in the 6th position, he's up 10 spots now. The number 8 machine up to P4. How about the rise through the field for the driver, the number 8? Looking to pick up a victory. Had the most wins last season. Wasn't able to run full time. Now looking to pick up where he left off before he went on his summer vacation. Mike Holloway now stuck in the sea of cars as Holloway outside of the top 10 as that chrome red bumper he's staring down. That's Adam Shane there directly in front of him with the Gargamel's kitchen machine. Still 2x2, about just right outside the top 10. Everyone else 2x2 on back.
And you can see with how some of these drivers are faring, they are leaning a bit on that right rear tire, Devin, especially with how hard they're charging the corner. But in turn, the exit of turn 4, several drivers have slid right here on exit throughout this race so far. No major slides this time.
Yeah, everyone, I think, has kind of gotten a little more comfortable. And even though the tires get cold during those caution laps, now that they're even worn in a little bit, you get a better idea of what the car is going to do here in these opening laps and get the tires back up to that normal and sometimes very warm temperature. But the last thing that you want to be is stuck on the outside while this choo-choo train wants to make the headway on the inside. Ruben Altice in that black 11 machine stuck on the outside, and here comes the principal, Chris Wolfson, the white and orange number 17. You got to find a way to get back down to that bottom, otherwise you are going to lose a heap load of positions, because you know Mark Herzog and James Lowe want to strike after that incident moments ago.
Mark Herzog nearly getting to the door. In fact, Ruben Altice coming off the corner. Herzog already up to 14th. Lowe looking to move himself into 15th, clearing on by. Speeds also dives underneath. Altice, if anything, starting to back up the corner a little bit to try and find that first hole. The first hole is for second to last, right behind Lil Jewel. And it looks like he'll find said hole. Kurt Smith gives him space.
You go, thank goodness, lost a handful of positions, but the number 11 finally gets in second to last on the track. And he has to set his sights back forward again and make his way through the field. Back up front, Austin Belkey, J.R. Shepard, Kenny Kibbe, Matthew Thunhorst, Justin Morden, your top five. And I'd have to say, Justin, at this point, this is kind of the five that I'm looking at to fight for the championship, especially if James Lowe can't quite get his way back up through the pack with the unfortunate circumstances that he's had to deal with. But if you tell me you have five drivers to pick to win the championship this year, this is at least 5 of the 6 that I'm looking at as J.R. Shepard takes a peek to the inside of Austin Belkey, cuts him a break there.
Nearly with the dive there as the two different Path Motorsports machines run 1-2 at the head of the field. Kenny Kibbe loses a ton of ground this time by. Nocturnal Gaming Machine, however, trying to follow on by. And this train, it's now the question of when do you try and make the move, because you don't want to just dive it underneath and risk damage or burn up your equipment in turn if you complete the pass. There were different methods we've talked about on how these drivers want to try and make a battle for the race lead.
And coming to complete lap number 36 that time by, the tires continue to wear. Remember, no tire changes in the Bootleg Racing League. The rubber that these guys start the race on is the rubber that they take the checkered flag with. So the cars are going to change drastically as this run continues to move on, and it comes down to how good are you at driving the car with older tires? How do you adapt to that used rubber? And how do you change your driving style? You have to adapt to what the car gives you. And sometimes one driver can adapt either sooner or just overall better than the next driver is. Herzog and Wolfson almost get into it. And that's a really prime spot where you can take advantage of another driver there, Justin. When you see someone maybe just isn't comfortable on entry or exit with those older tires, but you are, that's where you pounce and pick up that position. And at tracks like this, it's all about setting up the pass, the corner, or maybe even 2 corners before, and then taking advantage of any driver's discomfort. So you got to have that patience, especially not even halfway through this race, to watch and see what is everyone else dealing with right now that maybe I don't have to worry about or you can pre-prepare for. So a lot goes into it mentally when you're driving these race cars, even on iRacing in the simulator.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of concentration, being smart with those said moves too, and in turn, things have been intriguing. Looking back towards Lil Jewel, now being dived underneath by Ruben Altice, that drops him back to 18th spot. He's trying to recover after those moves before, but up the road should keep in mind of Steven Spies, because that onboard we were with previously, you may have noticed he got shoved up the racetrack by the 55. And now Spies has joined up to the next group that's battling for 12th position. That's Pearson and Herzog who are fighting up the road, followed by Lowe and Spies. Everyone trying to get underneath the 22 machine now. Herzog the first to clear.
Bruce Pearson's going, oh, come on, guys. I don't want to lose 3 spots right now. Cut me a break, but that's the last thing that he's going to get when Herzog, Lowe, and Spies are all attempting to gain ground as we reach the halfway point in just a few laps from now. So Pearson will slide back to 15th so long as Spies can complete this pass. And for Steven Spies, this is a guy who I love watching in the Dirt Street Stock Series on Friday nights. Really at one of the masters of that series, would get to victory lane here, maybe there, podium all the time, and then he made his transition to the asphalt, made his Grand National Series appearance a few seasons ago and was running very well, and I went back to the dirt, didn't run so much in the Grand National Series, and it seems like the more that this group together races collectively, the better that they seem to get, and Yeah, I think that at some point, the 55 was just kind of left behind, and he's had to struggle and fight his way to get back to where everyone else has grown to in such phenomenal lengths here on short track racing. So the 55 started strong and is now trying to build that repertoire back up, and right now stuck in that 14th position, but never a bad thing to be behind and watching Mark Herzog and James Lowe go to work.
Absolutely some great fights amongst this mid-pack at the moment. Todd Liston amongst those who have slid on back is now amongst this fight for 14th position. Spees already making the move on by him as these drivers get back in rhythm, just about 4 or 5 laps away from the halfway mark here in the BRL's Grand National Series. And an issue, Ryan Seneker has just pulled off the racetrack into the pit lane. What's going on with Seneker?
Man, that's unfortunate. And obviously, there are no scheduled pit stops because you can't change tires, and also you're going to have enough fuel. So obviously something wrong with the number 19, either in sim world or in the real world. So he's on pit road, and that's unfortunate because he had such that great starting position and had himself a good run going. So hate to see that for Ryan Seneker here just before the halfway point, have to pull it in.
He ended up hitting the inside pit wall after he turned his way to the pit lane. So let you know if we get any information on the situation with Ryan Seneker. Still following along with the battle for 15th or so meanwhile. Wilson, the middle car amongst this train. And keep in mind, this train is already falling behind by, give or take, 3/10 a lap to the race leaders. The thing is, last season it was maybe a 2-car, if not 3-car breakaway. It's still a 5-car grouping for that race lead, for comparison's sake, running 21 flats this season.
Yeah, but this front group, they are just running a blistering pace right now. Like you said, they're running 21 flats while everyone else is falling back towards the 21-1s. I see a 21-3 inside the top 5, or the top 10 rather, as well. So you have Austin Belkey, J.R. Shepard, and Kenny Kibbe, even Matthew Thunhorst running this insane pace. Justin Morton is about half a second behind Matthew Thunhorst. But how about Tim Shanoski able to make his way up to P6? Mark Herzog and James Lowe have made their way back inside of the top 10. So we've said that there will be a few of these drivers from the back and making their way forward. But even looking at Shanoski, now he's the man in no man's land, and this is the 6th position. The gap between 5th and 7th is more than a full straightaway right now. That is how blistering that pace is set by that top 5.
Been that incredible pace that has been dictating many of the races throughout the past few seasons BRL competition. Kurt Smith of note crashed into the inside wall just moments ago. He has just become the 2nd driver to pull off the racetrack. He had to put his car on the tow truck as a result of a slide on his own in the 6 machine. So we are down to 17 cars running, just past the halfway mark. Here's the slide for Kurt Smith.
And this is a simple case of getting on the throttle too soon. There's just a love tap on the inside wall, but never what you want to do. And this is where, with the rear tires beginning to give out here past the halfway point, because you can't change your tires, right? Starting to wear down, and when you get back on that throttle on exit, the rear end begins to want to whip around, and you have to readjust and find what is the new braking point, if you will. What's the limit of these rear tires when I get back on the throttle to try to maximize the speed? Down some fairly long straightaways, so corner exit here is such a priority to make sure that you set yourself up for success down the straightaways with maximum speed. Gotta find that new point now with that right rear tire fading away.
And that balance of knowing how to drive with the worn tires is so critical. The fall-off point from when these drivers started on fresh tires, keep in mind, you'll be a full second already throughout the span of this race. Here's the train for the race lead. Justin Morton staying much closer compared to the first run of this race, but no one's been able to make a peak quite yet. Notice this though, Austin Belkey, he's been attacking the corner in 1 and 2 fairly hard. It's Kenny Kibbe that loses a touch bit of time though, coming off 3 and 4, so there are some little strengths and weaknesses popping up in regards to which end is better, 1 or 2 or 3 and 4.
Yeah, and J.R. Shepard, he's taken a couple, I don't even want to call them peaks. He's got off of the corner lower than Austin Belkey at times and just hasn't forced the issue. But I am going to be concerned about Austin Belkey. Probably in the next 5 or 10 laps, he really looks like he's pushing on corner, in the center of the corner, I should say. And that is all the signs of that right front tire really wearing down And you mentioned how hard he's going into the corner. I would rather be slower on corner entry because that means you're saving that right front tire more, and then faster on corner exit because then you get to gain that momentum. Austin Belkey is having an immensely difficult time holding that bottom, especially compared to Kenny Kibbe and Matthew Thunhorst, who's in 3rd and 4th right now. So I'm worried that that Belkey machine might really begin to falter off later on. Look at how high he floats in the center of the corner. That car is really stopping, has stopped turning in the center of the corner, and that is going to be his demise if he cannot figure out a way to keep that car on the bottom and keep up speed.
Keep in mind, the different path motorsports machine behind him from J.R. Shepherd has been giving him a fair bit of slack with some of the moves. There have been a couple opportunities to dive underneath, just not any full-on prime chances quite yet for the defending BRL Grand National Series champion. Now inside 40 laps to go. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's just patience. I mean, while it seems like this race has been somewhat long, and I know especially in the cockpit, it feels long right now, but there's still 39 laps to go. You do not need to force a move if you don't have to. In this top 5, everyone in the top 5, I think, right now can compete for this win, say, in 20 laps. So there's no need to force anything right now and put yourself in a dangerous situation or ruin your tires. So I think we're going to continue to see the top 5 kind of give each other breaks for maybe the next, say, 15 laps or so.
Looking back to James Lowe, meanwhile, remember, won that championship during the springtime when J.R. Shepherd moved to a part-time calendar. And it's not been the prettiest of returns back, remember, after the incident earlier on, but still needs to get one more position, though, to put himself in a good chance to bounce back at the minimum next week.
Exactly, because this season is just so short. 11 races in a single season, and the points differential between 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, it's all one spot is 1 point. So if you are 5 points or 5 positions on track behind your championship competitor, that's going to pay dividends to your opponent moving forward in the season. So the 99 stuck in 9th right now, and when you see the top 5 in the championship, in my opinion, are currently in the top 5, if you're James Lowe, you're saying I have to pick up a minimum 3 more positions before this is said and done. With how many strong competitors there are this season, you cannot risk being more than 1 spot, or I guess 0 spots. You have to be on the rear bumper of your other championship competitors if you want a shot to win this title.
And right now, he rides 9th position. That is 3/10 behind Mark Herzog, the car he was tangled up with earlier on. And he's starting to send it into the corners as well towards the 57. Now within 1 car length, it is Shane who leads this grouping of cars too. Keep in mind, Adam Shane, his times have been up and down the charts, essentially, Devin, because he's gone from 1s to 3s, back to 1s, back to 3s. He has been bouncing around, now back to the 4s.
And that tells me, yes, he has speed, but lacks the consistency as Mark Herzog goes for a bull ride right there. The 57 keeps it straight and kind of pushes in the center of the corner, and that will allow James Lowe to get around for the 8th position, the provisional pole for next week. But yeah, back on Adam Shane there. He has the speed. Now he's back on a 20.6, so he can get it, but just kind of lacks that consistency to do it every single time, which is so difficult to do, especially at such a technical track like Stafford. So he himself just has to lock down and figure out what is this car doing on this older tire. So he's figuring out how to do that. And meanwhile, behind him, how about Mark Herzog actually fought off James Lowe using the outside lane? I didn't think it would happen, but maybe, just maybe, does this outside line become viable here moving on board here with Herzog? And yeah, this is going to be where he almost goes for a ride.
Now this was very dicey amongst these drivers as Herzog able to defend hard. Worth noting, these two are fighting in live action to the point where it's gotten physical. Lowe has just moved Herzog out of the way, sliding up the track into his door.
Now, I say you have to be patient, and obviously there's just under 30 laps to go, but on the other hand, especially if you see someone struggling with the handling of their car, you know you got to get by guys eventually, so you have to set in your head, what lap do I need to go? And I think for James Lowe, currently sitting in that 8th position, it's time to go. You got to catch up to Justin Moore, and potentially they're over 6 seconds ahead of James Lowe. So he's got to make up a lot of room if we go caution-free for the final 28 laps of this race. It is go time for the 99. He needs to get every point possible right now.
The next car up is still Shane as we look at the race lead group as they are about to reach lap traffic for the first time. Lowell Jewell has also elected to pull his car to the pit lane, down to 16 running. Todd Liston is that 16th place car. Quick update on the Ryan Seneca situation. He has mentioned an issue involving new leg braces that need adjustments, could not work the pedals any further. As we come to 25 laps to go, and this has been the race Austin Belkey has been looking for. He has made significant gains over the course of a year, year and a half or so. His average start and finish back in seasons 1 and 2 in the series, 14th, 13th positions. Rose up to the mid-pack by the seasons 3 and 4 campaigns. Then the past couple, he's been a top 5 car, and now, at the rate he's going, he is looking on track for his first career Grand National Series victory with 24 to go.
And that's the thing, Justin. Don't look at this and go, oh wow, Austin Belkey is finally broken through. No, this is like minimum 1 year in the making. He was so impressive last year with his utter consistency and speed. I think that these setups probably more so suit his style, maybe a little bit more, but this isn't just, boom, break through the wall, Kool-Aid man. No. This has been in the making for a long time now, and he's showing right now. I think even he's running that higher line. Maybe just suits him better because he continues to gap J.R. Shepherd. This is not just something random. This has been in the making. If he can get this first career victory, it would put him in a phenomenal class. Only the 7th different driver through 8 seasons to win in this series.
And amongst them, 4 of them are running nose to tail right behind him. Battle for 6th now, you've been following along with me. While James Lowe up to 7th. Here's that battle for the race lead once more, coming to 21 laps to go. And this has been the biggest breathing space Belkey has had in a while. For much of this race, J.R. Shepherd was within a half a car length. Now Belkey is slowly starting to walk a little bit forward from this group. Now more than a car length is the advantage amongst from 1st to 2nd.
This is one scary-looking choo-choo train. These are some of the best BRL competitors across all of the different series. And Austin Belkey has earned himself championships in some of the other series, but not this premier Grand National ARCA Impala series. So when you look at this train of 5 cars, these are 5 of the best in the league, week in and week out. And like I said earlier, what you're looking at right now, maybe add James Lowe in there. These are the guys fighting for the Season 8 championship right here, and you can see, just from the speed, how good all of these drivers are.
No one's made any major mistakes. No one's been able to dive for any positions amongst that. Compare that still to the battle for 8th on back. It's night and day. That's Joe Segales that's right behind Mark Herzog now. Adam Shane continues to slide on back out of the inversion spots and then some. Mike Holloway now taking advantage. It's gotten into where Shane cannot stick the bottom in 1 and 2 at all. He's been drifting to the 3rd line and then some, even without cars underneath them.
Yeah, I think those tires are junk right now. He just cannot find a way to either, 1, hold the bottom, or 2, if he does hold the bottom, it's because he's going monumentally slower to really woe down the pace there. So that's something that happens in these short track races. If you are unable to keep up pace-wise and conservation-wise, which is the strangest balance in the world, right? But that's racing. You're just not going to be successful. Now on the apron, he'll let the 55 go by, and Adam Shane says this car is a monstrosity. Not going to risk anyone else's race right now. He'll pull it in, and that will likely be the conclusion of his race after what was looking like a good run inside the top 10 on a very stacked field here tonight.
Leaves us down to 15 cars running. Adam Shane now scored 16th as a result there. Back to the race lead group we go. Because there is a fight just up the road from them, Devin, and that may be critical for how things turn out for the race lead if they indeed reach them with how they're fighting. This is again Wolfson and Altice. Bruce Pearson is also within 1 second of them.
And this is outside of the top 10, but you know if you get a caution, you're just outside of that spot for the provisional pole. And again, there is no qualifying any week here with the BRL Grand National Series, so every spot that you gain for the finish is a spot gained to start on the grid next week. So this patch right here between Altice and Wolfson, whoever finishes in front of the other one, they start in front of the other one next week. So that's just an extra little bonus that you have here in BRL from having good finishes and good runs. Wherever you finish is where you end up starting next week.
Let's take a look at Joe Segales. He had a bit of a moment, Devin. He's the next of the drivers who have now made the slide into the infield grass. This time, no collision to the wall, however.
That's such a sketchy feeling, and luckily for, I don't think any of these drivers, Kurt Smith came the closest, but there's a point of no return in any automobile in iRacing where eventually it's just too much and you end up sliding way out of the way. Luckily, no one has really went and lost the car and put it into the wall, but everyone's still having to adapt to that throttle control to make sure that those rear tires don't just whip around and turn you. As they begin to go around Ruben Altice, another lap car in line, that would be the 17 of Chris Wolfson. And there's no good place to gain lap traffic, and right now, Thunhorst taking advantage of where Kenny Kibbe caught the last lap car.
He wants a podium position, dives to the inside, now pins Kibbe right behind Chris Wolfson. Kibbe not having any of it, drives Wolfson into the wall. Kibbe still loses the position. Thunhorst now up to third position. That was a very much bit naughty there, Devin, as they're still not done yet.
And as someone of my stature, I am very often in the position of the lap car who's just trying to stay out of the way. And in that case, there's nothing that Chris Wolfson can do except for sit there and wait for whatever's going to happen and be as predictable as possible. So nothing that the 17 did wrong there, and the 8 of Matthew Thunhorst took advantage of the opportunity, and going by those few lap cars has strung out this top 5 immensely as we have under 10 laps to go now.
Coming up to 7 this time by, Kibbe is now mightily loose as a result of that contact door-to-door with the 17 of Wolfson. Wolfson was able to also drop behind Ruben Altice in turn for 13th spot. But amongst the lead lap cars, Bruce Pearson, next car being passed on by. That's just a little bit up from Kenny Kibbe. Pearson just went into the door, though, of Matthew Thunhorst into the wall. Several cars dive underneath the 22. Bruce Pearson now moves out of the way, as Pearson now tries to defend for his own positions after that contact with a third-place car.
And Austin Belkey is loving this. 5 laps to go this time by for the Jeff Gordon tribute driver, if you will. Looking for his first career Grand National Series win. The gap is now 0.6 of a second for the number 24 machine.
Right now approaching the point of no return as well. Next flag would end the race for Austin Belkey. All he needs to do is make sure there's no major mistakes over the next 4 laps, and he puts himself into the victory column for the first time in the Grand National Series, adding to his illustrious improvement in his career that has included a few BRL championships. 3 to go this time by, as now the fight for second heats up.
Thunhorst has reeled in the rear bumper of J.R. Shepard, and I think Austin Belkey would be in love with any two-wide battle behind him. And yeah, Justin, this would be his first career Grand National Series win, and what a way it would be to light up this first season after his best career season last year. A win would certainly put him in the championship hunt here in season number 8.
2 laps to go this time by. White flag next time by. This is all while J.R. Shepard continues to play defense on Matthew Thunhorst in the battle for second. Kenny Kibbe continuing to drift behind them as well. Justin Morton has stayed stationed in 5th position throughout all of this. White flag this time. Battle between Shepard and Thunhorst. 10 victories combined last season. How will they fare out as Belkey just a few corners away from his first career victory? No major slides this time. Austin Belkey, one final set of corners just up the road. For the first time in his BRL Grand National Series career, Austin Belkey is a winner He takes the victory at Stafford to begin Season 8 over J.R. Shepherd and Matthew Thunhorst.
So cool to see the Michigander grow over the past few seasons, past couple of years, get better and better and better. Had that consistency last season, and tonight puts it all out on the line, proves its worth, and proves just how good he is. Austin Belkey, for the first time, a BRL Grand National Series winner. How cool is that?
Able to start as the control car as a result of Kurt Smith starting from the pit lane and never looked back from there. Immediately took the race lead and then some coming out of turn 2 and controlled the tempo from there. Devin, a very dominant performance tonight. Looked very cool, and he's been in situations where he's been the leader before, but tonight, this was the most composed we've seen him in terms of his tire wear and in terms of his consistency and how he handled the pressure to be able to take this checkered flag tonight.
Absolutely. He found that balance, which is so difficult to do on any short track. But now comes the hard part, Justin. Not only having to compose himself for the winner's interview with you, but also this is going to be the expectation moving forward, that he will be out here competing for wins week in and week out. He was the guy always competing for podiums last season, but now he's up to the top step. He's looking for wins week in and week out now.
Let's take a glance towards how your running order has finished things out for the opening race of Season 8, BRL's Grand National Series, presented by Gargamel's Kitchen. Once again, it's Austin Belkey who comes away with the checkered flag tonight. The differential towards said checkered flag ends up being a separation of half a second. Matthew Thunhorst came home in 3rd position with Kenny Kibbe 4th, Justin Morton 5th, Tim Chanelski in 6th, James Lowe, Mark Herzog, the inversion spots, Holloway and Speeds were the top 10 tonight. Get a glance towards that in picture form in just a moment as the celebration continues for Belkey. Devin, again, this is going to be intriguing. Can Austin keep it up? You can tell how pumped up he is. He has not stopped celebrating yet. Finally does.
Yeah, I love the long burnout celebration, soaking it all in. You can tell it means quite a bit to him, and yeah, he's going to have to come out here and compete for wins now. That's going to be the expectation, and I don't think he would have it any other way.
As mentioned, that's your top 10 with Belkey up in front to take home the checkered flag for Different Path Motorsports. Just outside those inversion spots again to recap for Holloway and Speeds, the Herzog machine will start in the pole position based on attendance to begin next week's race for a first time at Hickory Motor Speedway. But Devin, top 11 on back, had some intriguing battling, including for factors for some of the battles for the final podium spots.
And hey, we had 18 drivers in this race. Only 11 finished on the lead lap, closed out by Joe Segales. Bruce Pierce in the first car, 1 lap down, followed by Ruben Altice and Chris Wilson and Todd Liston. Adam Shane and Lowell Jewell. Kurt Smith round out the 18-car field tonight at Stafford.
An exciting race tonight once more to begin a brand new campaign of Grand National Series action. With the celebrations now just about to get underway. 1-2 for the Different Path Motorsports logoed machines this evening, but it's Austin Belkey who's able to break on through. Austin Belkey, a first-time winner in the BRL's Grand National Series. Austin, after years of improvement and showing the consistent finishes over the past year, you have finally done it. Congratulations. How does it feel to be a winner in the Grand National Series for the first time?
Wow. First off, thank you so much. I like to say I'm going to Disney World, but that's a bit out of my price range for celebrations. Oh man, this is fantastic. It's hard to really put it into words, just how tough it is to win one of these races. And I almost didn't today because JR was there. He was pressuring me really hard all night.
You actually led every single lap tonight to Austin. Despite that pressure, there were several cases where Shepherd thought it looked like for a peak, but didn't get the run to fully get side by side. What was it like in the car knowing how tough it was to hold off not just Shepherd, but Thunhorst, Kibbe, and Justin Morton. You had just about everyone expected to be in the championship fight, and then some this season, nose to tail right behind you.
Yeah, I really figured as soon as JR got by me, or as I got out of line, as soon as that happened, I was just going to get freight trained and wind up probably 5th or 6th or worse than that, because my tires were shot at the end. I could see JR was peaking. I got the call a couple times, but I knew if I just got a good run off the corner, I could probably end up clearing them. But the cars are really loose. I mean, when I say they were loose, these are probably like the most loose race cars we've driven here in a long time. So they were really hard to get up off the corner. There were a couple times I was on the absolute limit of grip, just trying to stay ahead of JR, and you could really see it in the cars tonight.
Definitely looks slipping and sliding around that racetrack tonight. But Austin, have to ask, of course, you won championships in BRL competition over the past year or so, but to finally break through in the Grand National Series, how much do you feel that shows, especially as you start in the first seasons in the series, averaging around 13th, 14th finish is overall. Moved to the mid-pack, then moved up to top 5 the past year. What do you feel that shows, especially knowing that progression you had over the past couple seasons and couple years?
Yeah, you're right. It's been a long time coming for me to get all the way here, and it's been a lot of hard work to get here. And I got to thank JR and my team, Different Path Motorsports, and Kenny, even Matt Thunhorst. All those guys have taught me so much over the last couple of years, just talking to them and trying to be as much like a sponge as I can to just absorb all that information. But I think it just shows how tight a group we are here at BRL, how you can come into the league and not know what you're doing. And then gradually build up as you get more and more speed in your car and confidence in yourself. And we're just a great group of guys here, a bunch of friends all having a good time.
Anyone you want to thank for the run tonight?
Yeah, a lot of people to thank. The good Lord, my parents, you guys are putting on such a great show, a lot of talent up in these booths. It's so cool to be on Virtual Grip Network. Of course, I'm here on Fridays for the Dirt Street Stocks every other week, and it's cool to be there with DJ. I got to thank JR, Kenny, Matt, my team, Different Path Motorsports. It's been a really great week this week for a lot of reasons, and I'm just really thankful I could finally pull this off. I got to thank Gargamel's Kitchen. They're such a fantastic sponsor for us and partner. Of course, they sponsor this series and the Dirt Street Stock Series, so really cool to have a partner like them invest so much into us as a brand and as a group. Yeah, just a whirlwind of a night.
Congratulations, Austin, on a huge night for you and your entire group.
Thank you, sir.
Once again, that's Austin Belkey, first-time winner to open up a brand new season. The driver who provided pressure all night long was one of the main mentors. Also, driving a Different Path Motorsports machine, Devin Henry has now caught up with your second-place finisher, the defending champion of the series, J.R. Shepard.
And JR looking for that extra win and got yourself to that benchmark of 50 last season. Couldn't get it done, though, because your teammate goes out and leads 100 laps here at East Stafford. Take me through what this race was like, because you top 5 were just stuck in glue the entire time. What was the pressure like trying to pressure your teammate while you have 3 cars behind you on your bumper? Not 100 laps long.
It's not easy, for sure. Yeah, Austin ran a great race. Really cool to get the first 1-2 finish for Different Path Motorsports there. So really, really cool, I think, for us for that. But yeah, it's one of those things where track position is huge here. And like Austin said, just trying to get off the corner was extremely tough. These cars were loose, fun to drive, but definitely hard to get your nose pointed and try to get underneath somebody and actually stay there down the straightaway. So really tough for sure. You made one mistake and the guys behind you were going to get there. So yep, glad it's over with. We'll take second tonight and move on.
And in all honesty, I don't know who's running full time, who thinks they are, who maybe doesn't think they are, maybe they don't know they are and they will, but whatever. When you look at how stacked that top 5 was, you have you and Austin, Matthew Thunhorst, Kenny Kibbe, Justin Morton, and then James Lowe wasn't too far behind you guys. I mean, I'm just going to assume that even 4 or 5 of the 6 of you guys run full time this season. What do you think this championship picture looks like right now with just an absolutely stacked group of guys that really showed off tonight? how good you all are and how tight we might have this season as well.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be tight. We're going to some tracks we haven't raced at in a while, and even a new one next week. So I think there's a lot of unknowns for this season, and yeah, if everybody ends up running all the races, it should be exciting, and like you said, it should be really tight.
Able to take home P2 in the season opener. Who do you have to thank for winding up on the podium? Both you and Austin on the top 2 steps, as you said.
Yeah, just thanks to BRL for giving us a place to race that's enjoyable, and yeah, thanks to Different Path Motorsports. Great that we got our first 1-2 finish. Really cool, and big thank you to Gargamel's Kitchen for being the title sponsor. Everything that they do, they've been with us for several seasons now, so really cool to keep them on board. And big thanks to you guys at Virtual Grip Network. So cool to be with you guys this season, and look forward to your broadcast.
J.R. Shepard taking home P2 in the season opener here at Stafford. Meanwhile, back in the 3rd position, it was a late pass, but he got the job done. Matthew Thunderhorse is with Justin Prince.
Yes, indeed. It was a fierce fight and a fierce drive, first of all, Matthew, because with you not taking part in the past couple races to close out the BRL Grand National Series competition for Season 7, you had to start 14th spot. How difficult was it to get yourself up to the lead pack, and in turn, how to plan things out to move forward than that barrier of 5th on forward?
Well, I mean, there were certain passes that were pretty easy to make, but when I was behind guys like Tim and Kenny, it was just, they were guys that were just getting so good off, and it was just, and part of the reason why it was so hard to make a pass here was just, it wasn't like you could do a start outside, cut inside, and get the line off. It was just, you had to execute better, and when other guys weren't making mistakes, it was pretty hard to get the pass. I mean, I got pretty fortunate with the fact that I got up to 6th and that caution happened, and then I think something happened to Ryan there, and that allowed me to shoot inside Justin as well and kind of nab up the 4th. But, you know, it was pretty difficult to make a pass tonight, and it was just, I don't know. Austin was doing a good job. He might have been, you know, a few hundred slower a lap, but he was doing everything he could. And it was just whenever JR or Kenny would try to make a move on each other, it's just I'd see them wiggle and you try to make a move, and it's just you couldn't get anything kind of going.
It was interesting indeed how things fared out up towards the front indeed, but overall, of course, last season in particular, there's the talking point, of course, where if it wasn't for the last 2 rounds, not taking part of those, you might have came away with the championship. What's kind of the mindset now this season, knowing you're still one of those favorites once more this year, especially since you tied for the most wins last season with 5?
Well, I think this season it's just, you know, don't let the pressure get to me that, you know, it's pretty well known now with my performance last season that I can be a competitor, and, you know, it's just try not to let that get to me. And it's, you know, I mean, tonight was a 3rd, but I mean, it wasn't a win. I want to say it feels like it just because of how much effort had to be put into this and just how hard it was running in that front pack where we were inches off each other, felt like for almost the entire race. And if you got a car length, it felt like a country mile at points. So it's just going to be continue to try to put down the performances. One, don't beat yourself, because I mean the competition is getting tougher with a lot of the guys that did sit out coming back. So, you know, it's kind of just throw my cards on the table and play how I can, and you know, if I win, I win. If I don't, I don't. And you know, just try to put together a season I can be proud of. And I think, you know, I've completed one step of that this season and enjoyed it so far. So just got to take it one race at a time, and I'm not sure. Oh wait, yeah, that's right. We're going to Hickory, so that's not going to be an easy track either to go to. So I think it's going to be kind of more of the same that Stafford, yeah. So it's going to be more of the same challenge again. So it's definitely not going to be easy. So you definitely got to take it one race at a time.
I was going to ask next, Hickory, brand new circuit to the iRacing platform over the past month or so. First time in series history, BRL goes to that circuit. You alluded to it there, feeling the similarities to Stafford. How do you feel that race could fare out in turn, especially for many? It would be their first time ever virtually at a track that so many in the real world and in the virtual world have come to love.
Well, I think it's definitely going to be a challenge. I got to run a couple of laps there earlier this week, and I almost feel like the best way to describe Hickory is a Foxford, and some sort of extremely bumpy track had a baby, and there's Hickory. So that course is it's interesting, and I think it's going to put on maybe, I don't know, a show like this where we'll struggle to pass, but it's definitely going to be something where the mistakes are going to be right there, and you're going to be on the razor's edge pretty much the entire race. So it's going to be interesting.
Anyone you want to thank for the run tonight?
Yeah, I just want to thank you all at Virtual Grip Network for broadcasting this. You know, Lowell and BRL as a league for putting this on, and Gargamel for sponsoring us. And I definitely do want to give a shout out to Mr. Wholesomeness, Austin Belkey. It's I didn't win, but it was pretty cool to sit there and see him do it. And so I'm going to enjoy kind of going back and seeing what kind of he had to say about this. But just congrats and thanks to him as well.
Congratulations on the podium tonight, Matthew.
Thank you, Justin.
That's Matthew Thunhorst. He rounds out your top three tonight. Like to thank him along with J.R. Shepard and Austin Belkey for taking the time to speak with us during post-race coverage here on the Virtual Grip Network. Of note, your hard chargers tonight, Devin. Matthew Thunhorst, Tim Janowski up 11 positions, but it was a race defined by needing to be near perfect, as the drivers mentioned, and in turn, a wholesome winner takes home his first career victory.
Yeah, so cool to see Austin Belkey fight, battle, grow, mature, improve, and finally get that win. And it comes in a race with literally every single one of the best drivers in this league in attendance and battling it out as well. And then you look at what a guy like Matthew Thunhorst was able to do tonight. He did not make the season finale last week. Or 2 weeks ago. It doesn't matter. I'll start in the back, and I'll still finish on the podium. So phenomenal drives by both of those drivers. One who started up front, finished up front. One who started in the back and still collected a podium finish. I don't, like I said, I don't know who's going to be full-time this year, but I'll tell you right now, I am immensely excited to see what we get this season here in BRL Grand National Series competition, because I think we have some phenomenal drivers and some phenomenal battles on the way, Justin.
And before we head out, we can't leave without talking about the next race. This is one where a lot of drivers have had it circled. It's what the league has had circled since the track was scanned to iRacing. Hickory Motor Speedway makes its debut in BRL competition next weekend. Your thoughts on seeing Hickory taking host for the Grand National Series next weekend?
Well, I'm fine talking about it so long as I'm not the one that's going to be racing it, because I'm terrible there. But talking about other guys going there, I'm more than happy to do that, because when you take a league for the first time to such a difficult and demanding short track, I think we're going to see, if it doesn't already happen every week, the cream is going to rise to the top at Hickory. That's what that track was made for in the real world and into the sim world. So I'm really excited to see what these drivers do with the invert. We know that top 5 is going to start, I don't know, for the most part outside the top 5 regardless of anything. So it's going to be interesting this season watching them battle and going to such difficult tracks like Hickory to duke it out.
On that note, we'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's exciting action once more from East Stafford Speedway. To start off the brand new BRL Grand National Series campaign, we'd also like to take the time to thank the title sponsor for the Grand National Series this season, Gargamel's Kitchen. Be sure to visit them at 2045 South Valencia Street or give them a call at 720-707-6178. Once again, the next round takes place October the 9th. You can find that once more here on the Virtual Grip Network, starting off coverage at 8:55 p.m. Eastern Time from Hickory Motor Speedway, who will come away in the first victory in the series' history at the track. Find out on October the 9th. But with that, it's time to say goodbye. For our producer, Daniel Handover, for Devin Henry, I'm Justin Prince saying so long, enjoy the rest of your evening. This has been a production of Skidder Creek Motorsports Group and the Virtual Grip Network.